Welcome. This is the Health and Wellness Coach Journal podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jessica Singh, the founder and CEO of the Center for Health and Wellness Coaches. This is a podcast for coaches to explore topics related to health, wellness, and coaching, sharing knowledge and sharing light. Dr. James Gordon is the founder and CEO of the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. A Harvard-educated psychiatrist, Dr. Gordon founded CMBM in 1991 to make self-awareness, self-care, and group support central to all healthcare and education systems. Dr. Gordon leads a global faculty and a U.S.-based staff who have trained more than 7,000 clinicians, educators, and community leaders in the Center for Mind-Body Medicine's model. Those who have experienced CMBM's training have spread its therapeutic and educational programs to hundreds of thousands of traumatized and stressed people, and people confronting the challenges of anxiety, depression, and chronic and life-threatening illnesses. A peacemaker and consensus builder, Dr. Gordon is known for cross-cultural relationship building, as well as deep life-changing therapeutic work with individuals, families, and groups. For more than 30 years, he has led CMBM teams in relieving population-wide psychological trauma in ongoing conflict zones in Ukraine, during and after wars in the Balkans, the Middle East, and South Sudan. After climate-related disasters in Louisiana, Texas, California, Puerto Rico, and Haiti, and schools affected by mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Broward County, and communities impacted by systemic and historical racism in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in Baton Rouge, and with active duty U.S. military and veterans and their families. Dr. Gordon is currently a clinical professor at Georgetown Medical School and was chairman under Presidents Clinton and G.W. Bush of the White House Commission on Complementary and Alternative Medicine Policy. He is a noted author and essayist, authoring books and book chapters, and publishing over 140 articles in professional journals and the popular press, including The Atlantic, The New York Times, The Washington Post, and The Guardian. Dr. Gordon has also authored several books, including Transforming Trauma, The Path to Hope and Healing, Unstuck, Your Guide to the Seven-Stage Journey Out of Depression, Manifesto for a New Medicine, Your Guide to Healing Partnerships and the Wise Use of Alternative Therapies, and the award-winning Health for the Whole Person. Dr. Gordon's latest book, Transforming Trauma, helps readers understand that they will all experience trauma at some point in their lives, and that trauma is a human experience rather than a pathological anxiety. Dr. Gordon, it is such an honor to have you here today.
Very happy to be with you.
I Where do you start with the life's work like that? Start with gratitude. As you reflect on your life's journey, what are you most grateful for?
Well, I'm most grateful for the fact that it's continuing, actually, and that I'm enjoying every day. I think that's crucial for me and crucial for anybody who's listening to us. I've found a work that I thoroughly enjoy. Not that there aren't times when I'm bored or irritable, but by and large, I'm enjoying it all. And that's been the sort of guiding principle of what I've done for all these years. I've followed my nose, and I've gone, and my nose is sort of pointing in the direction of what feels meaningful and satisfying to me and interesting as well. And I'm grateful also that I have an undying sense of curiosity about human beings, about myself, about the world around me.
Going with the metaphor with the nose knows, right? So as you sit now, just all the work that the Center for Mind Body Medicine has grown to, as you reflect on your journey at the beginning, when you first made that jump into mind body medicine, I guess I'd love to hear about that because you really did it at a stage where it wasn't so mainstream.
To say the least. It was regarded as, by more kindly critics, as strange, by others as totally crazy. But I became very interested from the beginning, from the time I was in medical school. I became interested in how our experiences, even the most terrible and traumatic experiences, we could find some benefit in them and they could be a kind of catalyst for transformation. And I discovered that in myself when I got very depressed in medical school. I was wondering, what am I doing here? And my girlfriend and I had broken up, and I was broken up about that. And I'm sort of wondering, who am I and what is this all about? And that very difficult period of time, with the help of, I went into therapy with a wonderful therapist named Robert Coles. And that time became a time when I really discovered things about myself that I'd never looked at. And I was 21, 22 at the time. I'd never looked at any of these things. And then I started looking at myself. And also, I started seeing through Bob Coles, who had been helping kids integrate the schools in New Orleans in the late 50s and early 60s. I thought I can be a doctor, I can see patients, but I can also be connected with and have influence on and help to make change in the wider world. So all that was part of my background. And I became interested in how working with people psychotherapeutically and creating therapeutic communities in psychiatric hospitals, I could see the enormous benefit of that. And I began to wonder, and this is back in 1971, is there a way that I can work with biology that's also transformative? And later in psychoanalysis, when I was a psychiatric resident, I saw that as valuable as it was, that there was some state or some way of knowing and way of being that was beyond what was happening in my psychotherapy and psychoanalysis. So all that led me to looking at ways to work biologically that were transformative, and also to look at meditative approaches that would take me into another dimension. I remember when I was in psychoanalysis, this is maybe 1970, 71. I was lying on the couch and free associating, and my mind was going in all these directions, and I was just feeling in an altered state. And I said to my analyst, who was a very nice, generous man and open minded, I said, what's going on? He said, I think that's what they call meditation, that you're in a meditative state. Well, whatever it was, I wanted more of it. So that's how I began to get interested in mind body medicine. When I was in medical school, I don't know about you, whether it's changed or not, but every system was taught as if it was totally separate from every other. This is digestive. This is the nervous system. This is the endocrine system. Well, the science was showing no, they're all connected. And that the same molecules, and we knew this by the early 1970s, the same molecules that we call neurotransmitters in the brain are called cytokines in the immune system and are called hormones in the endocrine system. It's the same molecules. So there's communication on a physiological and biological level, and also on an anatomical level. So it's all there. And I began to pay attention to what was clear to me, and it seemed to me it should be clear to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. I remember the first book I read from you was Manifesto for New Medicine. And when you talked about the new medicine, at what should be at the center and how the medicines and surgery should be used only when necessary, it was after my medical education and training. And it was maybe 50 years later from all of this that you're describing. It was just like, what is going on? This should be taught to us from day one. So it's so wonderful that you were able to connect these dots and bridge gaps between the worlds and help enrich so many providers with the model that you've created and the work you've done.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what I tried from the time I was at NIMH, beginning in 1971 for 11 years. That's what I was discovering, and that's what I was doing my best to share with the rest of the world and to get NIMH to fund as well.
For those who are not yet familiar with the Center for Mind Body Medicine, would you mind just sharing just a little bit about this? And what I'm so curious to know is your vision from when it first started and how it's evolved into this beautiful expansion that it has.
Well, I left NIMH in 1982, and I was in private practice, and I was using nutrition and acupuncture and herbalism, and I learned how to do osteopathic manipulation, even though I'm an MD. and I was working with different forms of meditation. So doing all these things, and I was writing about it, but I wanted to have a larger effect on the wider world of healthcare and health policy. And that's why I started the Center for Mind Body Medicine. I discovered that I couldn't do what I wanted to do in any established organization. People at Georgetown were perfectly happy for me to be a clinical professor and to teach some courses, but it, they weren't going to change the fundamental way that they taught psychiatry or medicine. And I wanted to create the changes. I wanted to create the change in consciousness in institutions as well as in individual practitioners. So I thought, okay, what I'll do is I'll create an organization that can in turn affect people at Georgetown and at all the other medical schools in the country, potentially, and as well as in clinical practice. So I started the center with no paid staff and no money. I was working, treating patients and making a living and writing for the New York Times and the Atlantic and doing those things, which felt good to me. But I wanted to create this institution which could foster change, but also would be a healing community and a community of healers. That kind of catchphrase was important to me, to bring people together. So we created a curriculum. The curriculum we created, and this is back in 1991, 1992, pretty much was the sort of the parent of the curriculum that you took a few years ago. We started off training people for 7 days, and it was wonderful. We had a lot of time, a lot of extra time, going for walks and being in the country whenever possible, doing many more things that we're able to do now, but we were able to distill it down to 5 days, and now most often it's 4 days. We started off training mostly individual clinicians. I had a particular interest in bringing medical school faculty through our training and making this program available in medical school. So a third of our participants were physicians, and the other 2/3 were basically mental health professionals. And it was going really well here in the United States. We initially did it here in Washington, D.C., locally with 30 people. A year after that, it went well, so we opened it up and we trained 120 people nationally. And then we developed an advanced training to help people bring the work out into the world and to give them more experience with using the techniques for others as well as for themselves. Great. But I became interested in whether or not the same approach that was working well here in the US could also be applicable in some of the most troubled places on the planet. So I started going to those places with a question. And the question was, here's what I have to teach. Do you think it might be useful? And initially, I went with a colleague who was a family physician, and she and I went to Mozambique and spent some time with former child soldiers who were about as traumatized as well as traumatizing as human beings could be. Many of them had to participate in killing their families, you can imagine that. And then they were in this murderous organization, and they were burning and killing other people. And when it ended, they were just total wrecks as human beings. They were guilty and angry and suicidal. And so we started doing some techniques with them in Mozambique. We weren't there long, but we could see that this could work. This could work across in a very different culture with a very different kind of people that I was working with in the Georgetown Medical School or at the Center for Mind Body Medicine in Washington, D.C. And then we work with people who've been lost family members in apartheid in South Africa. Same thing. People were very receptive. So I accepted an invitation to go to Bosnia. I wanted to go to Bosnia because the war had just ended there, the whole 250,000 people killed. It was a huge challenge. And actually being in Africa I felt very at home. It was very, just may sound strange, but people got me, I got them. They were primed for what we had to do. Bosnia, I wasn't so sure. It was such enormous ethnic conflict that seemed to go on for so long. But it was the challenge, and the whole world was focused on Bosnia at that point. So it was not only a great challenge, but it was an opportunity to do something that would have a wider influence. Susan Lord, family physician, and I maybe trained 25 people. We explored developing a much larger program, but it became clear that it was very difficult for a couple of reasons. One was because the Bosnian health system had all the worst features of Eastern European communism and Western capitalism. You can imagine that. So it was pretty dysfunctional. But perhaps more importantly, the whole society had come apart after these 4 years of war and all this hatred and the fear. The Croats and the Serbs and the Bosniaks were completely divided. So what was the insight that we had was the time to work with people is not after the war is over, but when the war begins. So we went into Kosovo within weeks after the war there began in 1998. And that Kosovo became our, in a sense, our pilot program. We worked during the war on the ground with people who'd been bombed and burned out of their homes, with the Mother Teresa Society, who are providing primary care, and with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, who had the soldiers who were monitoring the conflict. And we felt what we were doing was really being helpful to these different groups of people. NATO bombing came, we went into Macedonia, worked with refugees in Macedonia, met people from Kosovo in Macedonia, the refugees, the young doctors who were going to come back into Kosovo after the NATO bombing stopped, and they formed the nucleus of our program. So we trained 600 people in Kosovo, including everyone who worked in the community mental health system. And Kosovo became our pilot project. We were able to raise money from the British government, from private donors. Many of our team were still volunteering to come over. And what we saw in Kosovo is that the work could be very effective on a large scale and that we could study it. And we published the first randomized controlled trial of any intervention with war traumatized children. And RCTs is the gold standard of scientific research. The RCT showed that 80% of the kids who qualified for the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, so 82% of those kids who came through 12 weeks of learning self-care skills, slow, deep breathing, shaking and dancing, expressing themselves in words and drawings and movement, using guided imagery, and being in small group. 82% of those kids who qualified for the diagnosis of PTSD no longer qualified after 12 sessions. Those gains held at 3 months follow-up. So it was a landmark study. But what was just as important is the people leading the groups were not people like you and me, Jessica, with our fancy advanced degrees. They were rural high school teachers with no background in psychology except the Center for Mind-Body Medicine training. And they did a fabulous job. So that taught us the method works. It works with very traumatized people, and we can train people to lead these groups, these highly effective groups with no background in psychology, but who are committed and intelligent people, so we could work on a very large scale. So those two lessons were vitally important, and they've informed all our work and all the places you mentioned in the introduction, all those war zones, all the places in the United States where people are traumatized and where healthcare providers and community organizers and educators are themselves under great levels of stress.
The impact of what you've created, the group model, and for the mind body medicine, to be able to touch the heart of another human being from another culture, another continent completely, one of the most challenging environments possible. That to me is, I mean, what more power could you demonstrate in terms of the art of healing when it's that universally human, this curriculum you've created? And I'm wondering, could you share a little bit more about what you've seen about why this model and why mind body medicine is so universal that you are able to go into these environments and see the outcomes you're able to see?
Great. Thank you for the question. The first thing, though, is those environments, although they are indeed extraordinarily stressful, they're also conducive to change because people are so distressed and so disturbed that they're open to other possibilities. I said, and there's nothing that is working for them. So in a way, that is a good place to work. And I would say to everyone who's listening to us that the time to work with people is when they're most open, is when they're really going through the hardest time. Those are the people you want to work with. The people, the kind of worried, well, Washington, D.C. lawyers, for example, are not so easy because they're impatient and they think they have it all together. And no, I don't need to do anything more. The thing about our approach is that we draw on so many different traditions. We draw on indigenous healing traditions. We draw on the high classical systems of Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, as well as modern science. And we put it together in a way that is both grounded deeply in science and at the same time is accessible to everybody. And when I write my books like Transforming Trauma, I try to write it in a way that is scientifically rigorous and at the same time easy to read, easy to learn from. And that's the way our trainings are. We begin with, look, this is the way human beings function. Everything we think and feel and how we interact with the world affects every organ and every cell in our body, and vice versa. And it is possible for you, the people we're training, whether you're a doctor, you're a health coach, you're a nurse, you're a psychologist, you're a teacher, you're a community organizer, you're a veteran who wants to be a peer counselor, all of you can learn this, and all of you can enter into this continual conversation that's going on among every part of our being. And here are the techniques. And so we begin right away, you probably remember, teaching slow, deep, soft belly breathing. And maybe people could do this with us just for a minute now. Breathing slowly and deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth with the belly soft and relaxed. Concentrating on the breath coming in through the nose and out through the mouth, on the belly softening and relaxing, and on the word soft as we breathe in, and belly as we breathe out. So teach that, maybe for 10 minutes, and explain the physiology as I'm teaching it. And after 10 minutes, 80 to 90% of people notice a change. They feel calmer, the room is brighter, their heart rate is slower, because we're working on stimulating the vagus nerve, which decreases fear and anger in the amygdala, which counteracts the fight or flight response, enhances activity in the frontal cortex. So all these things are going on, and people are experiencing a change. And what that says to them, and it says to them, whether I'm teaching it at Harvard Medical School or I'm teaching it in Gaza, the message is the same. You can do something to change how you feel. You can do something to change what's happening in your body. You have that capacity. So that means you're not helpless. And when we have chronic illness or when we're traumatized, we often feel helpless. And also because of the way our minds work, if we can make one change, we understand that maybe not even a conscious level, we understand that we can make other changes. So that opens people up to all the other possibilities. So when I say, here's another experiment, and I always present everything we do as an experiment. There's no wrong way to do it. You just do it, you discover what happens. So when I get people up shaking and dancing to get rid of the tension in their bodies and bring up emotions, and I said, give it a try. So people think it's weird, but they've already seen through the soft belly breathing that, well, something that seems a little bit strange can be helpful. Let me try this. So they do it. And once again, just about everybody gets over some of the self-consciousness and they notice a change. Oh, I feel, oh, my body's looser and I have more energy and my mood's a little bit better. And that opens the door to all the other techniques that we teach. And then the small group is really important too. This is really important for everyone. That our ancestors in all the societies that our ultimate ancestors lived in, the ancestors who were hunter-gatherers, who lived in small groups, if there was a serious problem, psychological problem, physical problem, that the official healer would bring together a group, bring together the family or bring together the whole community. because it is so much easier to promote healing in a group setting. You feel the connection to other people, you feel the support of other people, you're able to share with other people, to experience trust and overcome that isolation that comes from serious trauma or serious illness. So in a small group, people have this extraordinary experience, and I imagine you had it too if you're enthusiastic about the work. Oh, oh, that's interesting. I'm not so different from that person. Or what she's learned of herself, that can help me. I can do that too. So all these things can happen. So the combination of teaching skills where people experience directly a difference. There's plenty of science to justify the techniques, and we share that too. But it's the personal experience that really, I think, makes the most impressive difference for people. And then being able to be in a group and share and learn. So that's the basis for all the work that we do.
So beautifully said and thought out. And that was one of my favorite parts about the CMBN training, that the first step was being in a group with the faculty. And for those who are listening, I apologize because this is the older version, but the transformation, you're so generous in giving the instructions for the activities and the scripts. It's such an amazing book. Thank you so much for giving this wealth to everyone.
This is the paperback version. It's called Transforming Trauma: The Path to Hope and Healing, and all the techniques are in here, and all the references to all the research and all the scripts, so you can use this for yourself. The other thing is, we welcome you to come to our training programs. We do online training a couple times a year, and we have the same small groups that we do in person, except we're doing it online. And we maybe have 100, 150 people in each one of those trainings. And you're in a small group. There are 10 people in a small group with one of those. It's now 160 faculty, actually. Descriptions are outmoded. So you have a faculty member who leads the small group, and then everybody gets together in large group meetings as well for the lectures and for some of the experiences. So this is an open invitation to participate in this work that we're doing and to become part of our community.
Absolutely. And from a coaching perspective, also, just having gone through the medical training and the coach training, the type of group facilitation training that you provide through CMBM is so unique and creating such a safe environment, honoring everyone's diversity. It really is such a powerful group that you've created.
And we
Thank
have a
you.
lot of health coaches who come through the training now. It's a beautiful fit with the philosophy of health coaching as well.
Yes, you create the environment for people to draw out their own wisdom, which is exactly what these groups do. For the coaches listening to this and for the healthcare providers listening to this, Dr. Gordon, I was wondering if you would share what you've seen so far, the biggest impact of doing this work in service has been on themselves, on the transformation the providers experience.
Well, what we've seen, and we have some research on this. There was research done. A professor at Stanford did some research on the effect of the training, and people have written a number of papers about the effect on medical students, psychiatric residents, and others. Well, you should talk more than me. What happened to you? And then I'll talk. What was the difference for you?
The biggest thing was hope. Hope for healing. I did it during 2021, and I was also inspired because my mom saved her from back surgery. With the imagery, she was told in her 30s to go get some procedure for back pain, and she said, "I'm not doing it," and she found your program. And after going through this one training, she learned how to heal herself, and I think you also had alluded to having back pain and then healing yourself in the manifesto for medicine. And so if you're able
Yeah,
to oh, yes.
that's beautiful. People come and they feel calmer. They learn things about themselves that they need to learn that they may never have learned, even if they've been in psychotherapy or done all kinds of other therapeutic activities. But things come up. They make discoveries about themselves, and they realize they have the power to make change in their own lives. That's really important. Many people come and they say, "Oh, now I know what I want to do. This is what I want to do." So it helps them deal with whatever the challenges are in their own life now, and it opens up new doors for what they might want to do going forward. People say again and again, it changed my life. My son, when he was 14, 15. We can train young people as well. He came to the Pine Ridge Reservation with me. They've had a suicide epidemic. 22 kids had killed themselves in 1 year. And the elders knew about our work because some of our faculty had volunteered. This Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. My son, who was very skeptical, whatever he was, high school, sophomore, he had to do some kind of community service. So I said, "Okay, come with me." So he thought he was just going to do AV work and hand out pieces of paper. I said, "Gabe, as long as you're here, get in a small group. You'll see what it's like." He said, "I'll be the only white boy there." I said, "No, I'll spare you the profanity." I said, "No kidding. Get in the group. See what happens." So he got in the group and he was very nervous about it. And the group leader, he was also at that time quite nervous about powerful women and also about Muslims. And I put him in a group with one of our great leaders who was a black Muslim woman psychologist. And he got in the group, and there were three Native boys in the group, as well as Native elders and teachers and health professionals. And he came to me after the first day and he said, "Dad, this is a life-changing experience." It's like he woke up to the wider world around him. And he learned the techniques and he began to use them as basketball player. So he learned to, when he got on the foul line, he would do soft belly breathing. And he began to share some of the techniques with other people as well. So people change, people open up. Also, one of the nice things about our online training is that people come together with people they never expected to be with. There might be an American physician, a couple of health coaches, a teacher from a school where they'd had a mass shooting, an indigenous healer from Africa, a therapist from Europe, somebody in Asia organizing healthcare work. Everybody comes together and they see the commonalities as well as they appreciate the differences and they see the commonalities. And they come out of the training, the first phase of the training, feeling very different, feeling very hopeful about what they can do, just as you said. And then in the second phase of the training, the advanced training, where you learn how to lead the same kind of small group that you were in the initial training. In fact, you lead one of those small groups. People come out of that and they have all kinds of ideas about, oh, I can integrate this into my work as a clinician. One of the interesting people who's doing this work is a radiation oncologist who's leading mind-body groups for the patients with whom she's doing radiation, cancer patients with whom she's doing radiation. That's beautiful, which is never thought of doing that before. She said, "I'm a radiation oncologist. I do these individual treatments." But she came out of that training and she saw this. She's at UCSF, as it happens. So, University of California, San Francisco, the medical school. She's a professor there. So everybody makes discoveries and then they see ways to enrich what they're doing. And the nice thing about doing this work, and health coaches obviously, because of philosophy, already have a taste of this, is you don't have to do so much work. You're creating the opportunity for people to make discoveries for themselves. And you're not trying to convince anybody of anything. You're just teaching them things and letting them discover for themselves and what they need to in order to make themselves more healthy, more in balance, more effective in whatever way they need to be.
Absolutely. One of the most unexpected educations that I got from this training too was in diversity and having that respect for other cultures and cultural humility. Because it's one thing in a medical setting where you go in as the expert, someone's sick and you're trying to heal or whatever allopathy gives you to heal. But then when you come here and you go through these groups and you actively listen and you really see the other person as a reflection of you. It for me, the learning about diversity and the culture humility was such a big part of these groups. I didn't expect that, but it's so powerful.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's very powerful. Sometimes it's very challenging, but it's also fun. That's the other thing. There are tears and there's laughter.
Absolutely. Where do you see the future for mind body medicine or for the Center for Mind Body Medicine and this work that you're doing?
Well, right now we're focusing a fair amount on working in Minnesota as a new place to work. I think right now there's so much division in our country and so much distress. Our model brings people together because they want to learn what we have to teach. And so they will, quote, put up with other people whom they would never have anything to do with. But what happens in the course of people who have very different worldviews coming together because they have the common goal of dealing with stress or dealing with trauma or learning techniques, when they come together in a small group, what happens is they begin to appreciate the other people. That side effect of our training is, I think, one that's going to become increasingly important now in our society. So we're able to work in community. For example, we've worked with Black community organizers and white cops. And the community organizers are organizing because of police brutality. The cops don't know how to deal with the community. And they're not coming together to befriend each other. They're coming together to learn how to deal with their own stress. But in the course of coming together, things are changing. The way they look at each other changing. Just the way my son, the way he looked at himself and the way he looked at these Native kids and the way they looked at him changed profoundly. So I think one of the things that's going to be very important for our work is working all over the United States, helping people come together to deal with common problems and in the process of that come to understand themselves and each other, to be open to others. And in order to be open to others, you have to come into some kind of state of balance. So much of the divisiveness is people are just stuck in habitual patterns and they're scared, they're antagonistic, they're fearful. And our work helps them deal with the fear, helps them deal with the anger, helps them open up to themselves and to other people. And then when you bring people who have different perspectives together, it creates a sense of community, a sense of mutuality. And I think this is incredibly important. We're working now in Central Texas after the flooding there that killed those kids last summer. And we're bringing together people who are very, very different. They're people with very different political and cultural perspectives. But they're coming together because they share a common trauma and they're coming to understand each other better. Everywhere we work, this is a significant part of the future of what we're doing.
So inspiring. As you reflected at the beginning of your journey, how maybe you were met with some criticism, but you kept at it and watched it grow to where it is. Based on all of that, what advice would you give a health and wellness coach specifically who wanted to bring this type of healing or work to a community and for a nonprofit?
Well, from my point of view, you come to our training and we will help you discover the answer to that question. This is an approach that fits very nicely with health coaching. And also, by the way, with what physicians should be doing more of, not just health coaches, as you discovered for yourself. So come to the training and you will see what the possibilities are. Once you have this kind of experience, once you have this repertory of self-care tools that you are using on yourself first, you will want to share it more widely. And then one of the things our training does is it helps people open up to the possibilities that are around them that they might not have seen before. So somebody will come and say, well, I want this because I'm an oncologist and I want to work with cancer patients. And they'll come to the training and they'll say, oh, I think I want to work with my staff, first of all. Or I want to go to my church and do a group in my church. I think for health coaches, it's really quite natural. One of the places we worked most intimately with health coaches was in the VA system. We were working in Bison 8, which is the largest division of the VA, Florida, South Georgia, and the Caribbean. And we trained 200 old health coaches in our model. They thought they were just going to work with individuals using the coaching skills they had. Once they came through our model, it enriched their work with individuals, and they began to love to work with groups. And they began to create groups for staff, for the veterans, and to spread our work throughout this whole system. And they loved doing it. They discovered that there's a certain intensity when you're working with an individual, and certain when you're working with a group, Everybody's doing the work and the burden's not on you. And the other thing about our approach that's really nice is that when you're working with other people, whether it's individually or in a group, you're also working on yourself. So if I'm leading a group and we're doing drawings or we're doing shaking and dancing or guided imagery or any of these techniques, I'm also doing the techniques and I'm sharing them with the people in the group. So it's a very nice model. One of the reasons people like our work so much is because they're always working on themselves as well as helping other people. And so there are sort of all kinds of benefits are coming. So that's what these health coaches found. The other thing that we've seen with the health coaches is that they discovered that they could do this work at a very high level and that they also had the capacity to train other people. So those health coaches are now leading trainings with physicians, sometimes as partners, for other people, other whole health coaches, of physicians, social workers. They become a faculty within the VA system, and some of them have become part of our international faculty as well. So it's like it's discovering all kinds of new ways to use the skills you already have, as well as a whole host of new skills, new ways to use them, new groups of people with whom you can use them. So it's very enriching. And come check it out. Look at our website. There's a video of a training program on our website, just maybe 5-minute video about one of our professional training programs. Look at the work we're doing in Gaza, in Ukraine, and Haiti, as well as here in the U.S. If you feel drawn to it, come. Follow your nose. Trust your intuition. If it feels right, I'll be doing a workshop in March. We get people's emails, we'll put you on the list. You come to the workshop, come experience the work. Maybe you'll do a workshop for people, Jessica. They'll experience it for you. It's all about seeing if something really feels right. And if it feels right, go for it. And our work tends to feel right to many, many health coaches.
Already feeling the expansion and the inspiration, just the model of CMBM, training thousands to heal hundreds of thousands is what you've done.
Exactly. And actually, those hundreds of thousands have now become several million
Wow.
by this point. In Gaza alone, we have worked with 500,000 people, and perhaps 80,000 have come through a series of groups. And the others have been worked with individually or in families or workshop situations. So a lot of people have been touched. In Israel, not as many, but maybe 50, 60,000 people. And in Haiti, even more. So it's work that you can feel good about, not only helping individuals, but you can feel good about helping your community.
When you think about medicine or healing, or like this model in CMBM, the 500,000 lives you touched in just that one location you mentioned, it's like the lives you're changing and saving. And so it's such a beautiful, powerful impact again.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you, doing this particular dance with you again.
Yeah.
We do some dancing in our training. That's nice too.
Very freeing. And so just to wrap up, given I know we touched a lot today, what's the takeaway you have for coaches or providers listening to this?
The takeaway really is where we started. Is find what you really love to do and trust your intuition. I mean, our work is about helping people develop, not only to use all these skills, but all these skills are in the service of developing our own capacity to know what's right for us and then to help other people know what's right for them. So just make sure whatever you're doing is really fulfilling to you and trust as you look. And also, I advise you just to open yourself to new possibilities. It's always so beautiful to look at. My just thinking I keep thinking my son, who's now 23, that for a long time, all he wanted to be is a world-class athlete, and he got quite good. He was quite a good football player. He got Division I offers, but then all of a sudden, what he discovered is because he was is that maybe he should use his mind as well. So he dropped football, now at UCLA, and he's thrilled with learning. He's brought everything he learned, all the discipline he learned as an athlete, he's now bringing that to a whole new field, and he's bringing his curiosity and his willingness to take chances. So I would encourage everybody. You don't have to be a football player, but cultivate your curiosity and stretch a little. See what's possible. Look around and see who's got something to offer that may be interesting. And maybe the Center for Mind Body Medicine's work, and maybe six other things. That's okay. But be open to that process of exploration. That's what I learned long ago when I went through my own healing crisis of being depressed and going into therapy and finding not only a therapist, but a kind of example for myself. And enjoy yourself. That's the other. Really have a good time doing what you're doing. People say you work in all these stressful, terrible situations. Yeah, sometimes it's scary and sometimes it's challenging, but I really enjoy being there. I enjoy just being able to be helpful and to deal with those difficult situations. That's why I became a doctor, is to help people when they're in a crisis situation. And so I have a chance to do that, not just with individuals, but with the whole society. And I say that about myself, but just as a way of encouraging everybody who's watching us, listening to us, to just take some chances and do what's interesting to you and keep looking around. And I'll just advise you, if something comes to your mind several times, oh, I think I should do this, or I think I should call this, or read this, or look at this, trust that and go for it. See what's possible.
Thank you so much. And for listeners, information about the Center for Mind Body Medicine will be in the show notes, links and references to his book. So you'll have lots of references for access and for further learning. Dr. Gordon, thank you so much for the honor of your time in this conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate you and value your feedback. So please subscribe and write a constructive review. If you'd like to be informed of new episodes and offerings and resources for coaches, sign up for our email list at www.centerforhealthandwellnesscoaches.com. Sending you warmth and light.